I put a video out last week. I showed a prototype. I asked what you thought. I wasn't ready for what came back. People who clearly know strategy games, military doctrine and game design sat down and wrote seriously about what this game could be. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when an idea hits something real. This episode is about what that response means for the game and what it accelerated. The comments on last week's video fall into two categories: encouragement and challenge. Both are valuable, but the challenge is where the interesting stuff lives. Multiple people independently arrived at the same framework: strategy, operations, tactics. A real military doctrine structure that describes exactly where this game sits. Not pure strategy, not tactical control, something in between. And almost certainly is the right place for this game to live. That observation came from the comments, not from me. Others went further. One individual laid out a detailed mechanical proposal. They suggested units that become less effective when constantly redirected, and standby forces that trade patrol effectiveness for order reactivity. They effectively proposed a strategic reserve the player manages instead of a tactical tool they deploy. The idea is elegant because it discourages micromanagement naturally rather than restricting what the player can do. Another asked whether perfect battlefield information reduces tension, whether delayed intel, communication bottlenecks, and information loss during chaotic moments might make the game more interesting, and whether the player being overwhelmed by incomplete information is more compelling than the player being overwhelmed by direct combat complexity. These are not small suggestions, these are design frameworks, and they came from people watching a 5-minute video about a prototype. I want to be honest about what acknowledging this feedback means and what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean I'm committing to any of it. A prototype is not a finished game, and adding complexity to a system that isn't fun yet is how games get complicated without getting better. Every suggestion has to earn its place by making the game more enjoyable, not just more realistic. What it does mean is that the conversation around this game is already more sophisticated than I expected at this stage. People are thinking seriously about the design problem. A central question that one individual put better than I could is, how do you reduce micromanagement without reducing player agency and fun? That is exactly the question that we'll try to answer over the next several sprints. That question is now the design brief, and it came from you. There was also a warning in the comments worth naming directly. One commenter said that a compelling idea can still produce a game that isn't fun, and that building in isolation risks delivering something interesting that nobody enjoys playing. That is the most important thing anyone said, and it's why what I'm about to tell you matters. The response to last week's video changed the timeline on a decision I was already moving towards. The game needs to be on Steam, not because it's finished, because it most certainly isn't. Not because it's ready for players, because again, it most certainly isn't. But because the feedback loop that produces a good game requires more than YouTube comments. It requires people actually playing it, responding to it, and telling me what works and what doesn't. That page is now live. The game is called Command the Dead. It's a zombie outbreak RTS where you're the commander, not the soldier. The link is in the description. If last week has told me anything, it's that the people watching this channel are exactly the people this game is being built for. The game has a name now, the page is live, and the design brief came from you. What would you add to the brief? What's missing from what I've described? Leave it in the comments. I'm reading all of them.